The sky above Veratus Prime was no longer blue, burned with streaks of red and black as massive alien ships drifted in low orbit, casting long, hungry shadows over the quiet cities below. The once beautiful capital of the Zavari people shook, under distant explosions. In a quiet observatory on the planet's northern peak, a scientist named Alrek stood alone, his 6 fingers trembling as he pushed the final coordinates into the system. Behind him, the walls of the observatory rattled with impact tremors, and the emergency lights blinked red. Alrek had spent most of his life studying stars, but now he was trying to reach anyone across them. The signal he prepared. It wasn't long, and it wasn't clever. It was desperate. It was real. We spoke directly into the transmitter as he activated the beacon. "This is Alrek of Veratus Prime. Our world is falling. Unknown, force dark, brutal, many ships wiping. Entire cities. This is not a raid. This is extermination. If you hear this, we need help, please. There is no time." The screen blinked once then, again then. Red dot transmission sent. That was it. That was all he could do. And when the glass dome above him cracked from a sudden tremor, and the sky flashed again with death, Alrek turned, closed his eyes, and whispered, "May the stars carry us to safety?" The screen kept blinking. Sent, but no one responded. Not at first. Far away. Inside the glowing halls of the Galactic Council on the core world of Cerelia, the signal was received. It was flagged by a low-tier AI, processed through layers of bureaucracy, and dropped into a file marked Outer Rim Civilian Distress, Level 4. A junior aide skimmed it, frowned, and filed it away. There were no council bases near Veratus. No strategic value, no major trade routes. The Zavari were peaceful, weak, barely known. She clicked Archive, and with one decision, she buried a scream for help. But deep in the Terran sphere on a station orbiting Earth's moon, the signal found its way to an old listening post named Echo Relay 9. The post was operated by a rotating crew of only 6 humans and 1 AI. It picked up old messages, noise, deep space anomalies, nothing important, until that day at 3:47 UTC. The beacon from Veratus Prime flashed across their main screen. The AI named HALO3 filtered it twice, confirmed its origin, and flagged it unverified alien SOS. A young technician named Kai Mateo rubbed his eyes, leaned in, and played the message again. He didn't look away once. After it ended, he quietly stood, left the room, and walked straight to the station commander. 2 hours later, the entire Lunar Defense Council was listening to Alrek's voice. In 20 minutes after that, Earth moved. Unlike the Galactic Council, Earth didn't wait for debate. They didn't ask who the Zavari were. They didn't care about trade routes or politics. They heard a cry for help, and Terran's Deathworlders had a rule. We answer, always. Across Earth's colonies and battle stations, lights turned red, ships powered up, pilots were recalled. The order spread: fast fleet status, war readiness alpha. One admiral said only 4 words: send the Black Fleet. The Black Fleet wasn't Earth's biggest armada. It was its deadliest. Silent, fast, surgical. A fleet built not to conquer but to rescue by any means necessary. Within hours, destroyers and battle cruisers left orbit. The flagship Iron Requiem led the charge. Carried no diplomats, no ambassadors, just soldiers, medics, and orbital firepower, enough to crack moons. Humanity did not ask for permission. It did not explain. It launched back on Veratus Prime. 3 days after the message was sent, Arek's world had become a wasteland. The alien invaders huge. Eyeless things made of black chitin and glowing red veins had overrun every major city. They did not speak. They did not take prisoners. They simply landed and began killing. Structures melted, air shimmered. The sky was full of death. Alrek survived underground, hiding in a tunnel with less than 20 Zavari, mostly younglings. The air was stale, food nearly gone. Outside, the alien creatures walked the streets, their claws leaving scorched trails. Then came the sound. A rumble. Deep. Metallic. Not like the invaders. It shook the ground differently from the sky above. The ruins, a black triangle cut through the smoke. It hovered silent. Alien. But not them. Alrek crawled from the tunnel, lifting his head just enough to see. A second triangle followed, then a third. Then an entire formation, black and gleaming, cutting through the red sky like blades. The invaders looked up, so did the Zavari. And then, sky screamed. Human dropships fell from orbit. In spears of blue fire, missiles hissed through the clouds. Railgun rounds lit up the air like thunder. The ground cracked. Invaders screamed, and Deathworlders landed. The first Terran soldier to touch the ground was a woman named Riley Shaw. Her armor was black. Her visor glowed red. She didn't speak. She simply raised her rifle and fired into the chest of the nearest invader, which exploded in a cloud of acid and smoke behind her. Hundreds followed. Medics rushed toward survivors. Engineers set up shields. Drones swept for more life signs. Every action was practiced, precise, terrifying. This was not just rescue, this was retribution. Alrek stared as one Terran soldier picked up a Zavari child and covered her with a medical cloak. Another soldier tall, armored in midnight blue, stepped into the ruined square and broadcast a message on open frequency. "This is Terran Black Fleet. Veratus Prime, we heard you. We are here." The Zavari wept. And across the galaxy, ships moved. Eyes opened. People began to whisper again the old rumors. The ones about Earth. The ones that said, if humanity comes, they bring war with them. They weren't wrong. But sometimes war is the only mercy left. When the first images of Earth's Black Fleet over Veratus Prime reached the core systems, they arrived like thunder. No announcement, no council clearance, no peacekeepers or negotiations. Just sleek black warships moving through the smoke. Like blades, their guns hot and precise, their dropships swift and brutal. The invaders were gone in under 6 hours, their ships destroyed, their bodies burned to ash. Not a single human soldier lost. And yet, it was not victory that shook the galaxy. It was the silence. No, it's interviews, no political statements, no explanations from Earth, just an action, cold and final, like a sword swung in judgment. Inside the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, the mood was brittle. The walls of crystal blue shimmered in nervous waves as representatives of over 100 species shouted across the oval room. Screens floated midair, playing footage on loop Terran soldiers dragging alien civilians to safety. Black Fleet drones striking enemy gunships midair, and finally, the Iron Requiem hovering over the capital ruins, silent like a god watching. "It's work. This is an invasion," barked High Speaker Jurel of the Thekran Alliance, his tentacles curling tight. Earth has crossed boundaries, used weapons without oversight. They responded to an SOS, growled Representative Lilin. "Of the Draylen Clade, one we ignored. The protocol says we deliberate for 3 weeks." And in that time, a quiet voice said from the side an entire species would be gone. The room fell into silence. It was Counselor Vess, an old diplomat from the Rim who had rarely spoken in the last 10 years. She stood now, frail but fierce. "Veratus Prime was burning," she said. "We archived their cry for help. Earth did not. That is the truth. Everything else is shame." Some turned away. Others stayed silent because deep down, even the Council knew they had failed. Across the mid-systems, public reaction was explosive. On neutral planets like Keller 9, people watched the leaked footage of Terran strikes and erupted into cheers. In the mining rings of Drux space, workers painted Earth's symbol in old. It's a single-line emblem of a world split by war in 2 docking bays. Merchants offered free cargo space for Terran ships. Outer colonies began transmitting encrypted pings. In Earth code, not to call for help, but to say thank you. No speeches, no politics, just 5 words. "We saw what you did." And that was enough. But not everyone was grateful. In the Black Fortress orbiting Sorella Prime, a powerful shadow called the Ver Dominion watched closely. The invaders who attacked Veratus had not been rogue, random beasts. They had been engineered, grown, released as a test by the Vare. Their goal was chaos, its collapse. Silence and Earth had interrupted it. Unacceptable, hissed Warlord Zyre, his skin of plated bone clinking as he walked. We lit a fire. Now the Deathworlders walk through it as if it were rain. A servant asked, "Shall we retreat?" "No," Zyre growled. "We send another wave. Bigger, louder. We make Earth bleed. We make them choose, protect or survive." Behind him, lights blinked red. New ships launched. The real war had only just begun. Back on Veratus Prime, the skies were quiet again. The air was poisoned, but cleanable. The cities were broken, but salvageable. And the people, they were not gone. In a medical dome near the former capital, Alrek sat beside a human technician watching a hologram of the battle. "I didn't. No humans were like this," Alrek said softly. "We're not," the technician replied. "Not always. Then why help us?" The human looked up, eyes tired but steady, because no one else would. "And we've been on the other side of silence." That night, more Terran transports arrived. But not with guns, with soil. Water recyclers, doctors, they didn't stay long. They never did. They just built what was broken, handed over supplies, and vanished into the stars, like ghosts. But the kind that leave hope behind in the weeks that followed. More signals reached Earth. Some direct, others coded. Some from places too distant to help quickly. But the Black Fleet expanded, and a new name spread across the dark. The Answerers. That's what alien refugees began calling Terrans, not soldiers, not warriors. The ones who came when no one else did. And inside the council, fear took root, not fear of war, but fear of becoming irrelevant. Because for the first time in generations, Earth didn't ask permission, and yet no one blamed them, because sometimes, when the galaxy goes dark, you don't need a committee, you need a fleet. It began with a tremor, small, barely noticeable, the kind of quake that sensors usually dismiss as harmless orbital interference. But this time, it wasn't natural. It wasn't weather. It wasn't even war. It was the sound of the void opening. Just beyond the orbit of Kylos 4, a peaceful, council-lined trade planet, space shimmered like heat off steel. Then it tore wide open like paper peeled back from the stars. Out of that rip came monsters, not biological, but mechanical and wrong. Hulking black ships with red glowing cores, shaped like insects twisted into weapons. Behind them flowed a storm of smaller vessels, spitting energy bolts that cracked the shields of orbital stations like dry bark. Kylos had no military, no defense fleet. It didn't need one. It was supposed to be protected by its council charter safe, respected, untouchable. But the Vare Dominion never cared for rules. From the sky, the Vare swarm rained fire. The first blast took out the communications array. The second hit the agricultural zones. By the time alarms reached the surface, it was too late. The stars themselves had gone dark with enemy ships. Kylos' peaceful cities, built from glass and vine, erupted into screams and flame. Gout Council evacuation protocols activated too slow. The orbital lifters couldn't even get off the ground. One ship tried. It was torn apart mid-air, and pieces of its hull fell like burning snow. But the real terror hadn't landed yet. It was watching, hovering at the edge of the system, cloaked. In shadow was a command ship unlike anything seen before 3 kilometers long, shaped like a blade stabbed into reality. It didn't move. It didn't fire. It just waited. Hours passed. Council forces scrambled to respond. But their nearest fleet was days away, too far. Inside, Earson single quotes. Inside the Iron Requiem, now stationed on the outer rim, near Veratus Prime, Admiral Riker Dane received the emergency ping relayed through underground refugee comes on Kylos. For no one had asked them to listen. No one told them to track council frequencies. But they were. And when the distress call echoed across Earth's deep-range alert net, Riker stood up from the war table and issued one command: engage. Within minutes, the Black Fleet spun into warp. It would take them 6 hours. Kylos had to survive 6 hours, and that's when the VAR dropped the beast. From the command ship's underbelly came a sound no one had heard before, high-frequency scream that broke the sound barriers of space. Then the hull peeled open, and something emerged. Not a ship, not a drone, a living machine. It was enormous, taller than a mountain. It's plated in obsidian armor with legs that bent wrong and eyes that glowed like suns. The Veer called it the Torchbearer. Its job: annihilation. It landed on Kylosfer's largest city with a roar of cracking metal and melted rock. People fled. Buildings collapsed. The sky turned orange as heat pulses from its chest incinerated anything within kilometers. The survivors ran underground. Screamed, waited, but help was already coming. Faster than physics said should. Because Deathworlders don't play by the rules of war. The Terran fleet dropped out of warp with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The Iron Requiem appeared first.
Out. Silent.
I will with fire. I will. I fire. I send fire. Then came the shadow ships, Stwenny and a leech, one lined with gun ports and rail cannons. The enemy turned to face them, and Earth didn't blink. No warning, no demands, no delay. They just fired. The opening volley split the black. Beams of plasma screamed through space. Missiles the size of transports struck Veer ships mid-turn, splitting them into spiraling clouds of molten debris. Human fighters, sleek and fast, weaved through enemy formations, dropping pulse charges into reactor vents. Within minutes, a third of the Veer swarm was gone, but the Torchbearer remained, still standing, still burning, still destroying the surface of Kylos. Riker watched the battlefield from his command deck, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on the ground. "Time to target?" he asked. 60 seconds, replied the AI. "Deploy Titan Lance." A hatch opened beneath the Iron Requiem. Out dropped a single Terran weapon project Lancebreaker and Anti-Capital. Kinetic rod moving at orbital speed. It did not detonate. It simply fell. And when it struck the Torchbearer, the sound was not heard, it was felt. The shock wave leveled 300 square kilometers. Dust rose into orbit, and when it cleared, the monster was gone. So was half the city. But no human regretted the trade. The remaining, the A ships tried to flee. They didn't make it. Earth's fleet didn't chase. They hunted. And when the last enemy signal was silenced, Riker finally opened a transmission. "Not to the Council, to Kylos 4. This is Earth. You're safe now. Medics inbound. Simple. Direct, no speeches, just action." The survivors came out slowly, eyes wide, voices shaky. Some had never seen humans before. Others had only heard rumors, dark, frightening ones about Deathworlders and their wrath. But what they saw now was not rage. It was relief. Soldiers handing out water packs, drones, building shelters. A little girl, half covered in ash, reached up and touched a soldier's helmet. He removed it, smiled, and handed her a blanket. That image traveled faster than any weapon, and it burned itself into history. Back on Council worlds, anger grew, but so did something else dashed out. Because now the question was louder than ever. Why did Earth get there first? No one had an answer, but one truth stood clear. When the stars cry out for help, Earth listens. And Earth comes armed. They called it the Grave Ring. It wasn't meant to be a warning, but it became one. After the battle over, Kylos 4 Terran Command gave no press conference, no official explanation, no recording of the fleet's movements. The Council waited. For a reply, for some message to assert Earth's reason for violating so many diplomatic lines. Instead, Earth left debris, thousands of meters of it. The remains of the Vare fleet cut. Melted, crushed, were dragged into orbit and reshaped into a circle large enough to be seen from the planet below. Half-wrecked Vare ships were bound together in formation, scorched and blackened, rotating in perfect silence around Kylos like a crown of broken teeth, and at the center of the ring floated a single object. A standard Terran message pod. It contained no apology, no justification, just 6 words carved into titanium. This is what we do. The pod was set to repeat the phrase in over 100 galactic languages, over and over, day and night. The message reached every council world within days. Some screamed. Outraged, others felt relief, but none. None could ignore it. Inside the council chamber, chaos spread like infection. Dozens of delegates filed protest after protest. Accusations of imperialism, of unsanctioned aggression, of earth-breaking interstellar code. But a quiet wave of dissent moved beneath the noise. From the rim worlds, from fringe colonies, from refugee sectors. They didn't protest the message. They memorized it, and they passed it on. This is what we do. To the weak, it meant hope. To the powerful, it meant warning. To the Vare Dominion, it meant war. On the dark moon of Tyrexel, deep in uncharted space, the Vare warlord Zyre stood inside a cathedral made of bones literal. Remains of enemies past watching the broadcast of Earth's debris ring. He didn't flinch. He smiled. Finally, he rasped. They show their teeth. Around him, Vare commanders hissed in agitation. They desecrated our fleet, one barked. They challenge our control, said another. Zyre turned, voice low and sharp. No, they answer our call. He raised one hand. A dozen lights lit up. The room, each one, representing a new weapon, a new beast, a new horror. Now we show them what the void truly offers. He raised another hand. A map of space appeared, glowing red. Target Earth. Meanwhile, in the Terran core, something unexpected happened. Alien envoys began arriving, not to threaten, to learn. The leaders of smaller species came with open hands, not to beg but to understand what kind of force had risen. From that long-ignored blue planet, on Europa Station, human commanders hosted a quiet gathering of 6 outer system species. They weren't warriors. They were scholars, engineers, and survivors. They didn't want ships. They wanted strategy. They wanted to know how Earth did what the Council could not, and the Terrans taught them not with lectures but with data, with tactics, with simple rules. One slide in particular became famous. Rule number 1, answer the call. Rule number 2, move fast. Rule number 3, hit hard enough, they don't come back. That became known as the Terran Doctrine, and soon alien forces across dozens of systems began adapting it. Even the Council began to worry because Earth wasn't building an empire. Earth was creating a way of thinking, a way of fighting. Back on Kylos 4, cities slowly rebuilt. Human medics remained. Terran engineers worked with alien farmers to rebuild soil tech, water lines, power grids, but one group remained different. The children, they didn't call the invaders by name anymore. They called them the Shadows. And when they saw the Terran soldiers walking patrol through the streets, they called them something else. The Flame. Little hands would trace the symbol on their uniforms. The children made drawings, crude, bright ones, of ships with fire. Under them, of black armor and kind eyes, of a world falling, and hands catching it. Those drawings spread across networks like wildfire. One reached Earth's net. It showed a child standing in front of a massive dark warrior, no weapon in. His hand just a shield big enough to cover them both. The caption: he came from fire, and made it leave. It went viral, not because of style, but because it was true. Meanwhile, the Black Fleet grew. Earth didn't speak often, but every time a world screamed into the dark, Earth answered. The list of planets. Rescued by Terran fleets past 30, then 50, then 70, and still. The Council stayed quiet, because the truth was ugly. For decades, the Council had been comfortable, soft, measured, and now, single death world had shown the galaxy something no one expected. That compassion, when armed with strength, could change. The stars, that peace was not enough. If no one was willing to fight for it, and the Death Worlders, they didn't fight for power. They fought because someone had to, and that made them more dangerous than anyone, far out in deep space. Yes. The Veer watched and waited. They had tried silence, tried whispers, tried chaos. Now they would unleash a scream, so loud the galaxy would burn to hear it, and Earth would be the first to bleed. But Earth had already seen the fire, and it had built a fleet to burn it back. The warning came 30 seconds too late. By the time Earth's orbital defense sensors picked up the ripple in subspace, the Veer ships had already arrived, dozens of them, ripping through the void like metal fangs tearing into skin. They didn't come in slowly. They didn't announce themselves. They burst from a hidden wormhole outside Pluto's orbit and burned a path inward. First, they hit the mining platforms on Neptune's moons, then the listening posts on Europa. And when Earth's outer patrol squadrons scrambled to intercept, the Veer didn't engage. They ignored them. Their target wasn't military. It was Earth. It was home. The first blast hit Luna, base-shattering part of the colony's upper dome and hurling debris into low orbit. Thousands lost contact. Thousands. More screamed for help as the Veer swarm passed by like a living cloud of knives. Earth's moon had never seen enemy fire before. It's not in 100 years. But now, it was a war zone. Within minutes. The second wave landed. Massive drop crafts speared downward, bypassing Earth's shield grid with dark tech new, unrecognized, impossible. They didn't aim for cities. They landed in rural zones. Remote valleys, forests, ice caps, they spread like cancer. No declarations, no demands, just an invasion. Inside the Terran War Command bunker, under Alaska's frost mountains, alarms roared. Admiral Riker Dane stood over the command map with a face carved in stone. They finally came, he muttered. Beside him, his AI tactical officer whispered back, they made a mistake. Riker nodded once, then turned to the room, locked the grid, activate fire veil. In a moment, Earth went silent. Satellites stopped transmitting. Civilian channels cut out. Surface communications shut down to the rest of the galaxy. Earth vanished from all signals, because Terrans didn't want to be watched when they fought. For their home, they wanted to be feared. The first ground contact came in the northern forests of Canada. A Veer landing craft opened its hull, revealing a line of beasts cloaked in black armor, arms too long and mouths of rotating steel. They stomped across frozen ground, scanning for movement. They found none, until the first one exploded. A mine, old school, hidden under snow. Then, its tree line lit up. Terran Rangers emerged in ghillie suits, silent, disciplined, focused, not shouting, not panicking, just shooting, and the Veer died. 1 by 1, then 10 by 10, then entire packs. No overhead support, just humans. Rifles and will and still. More Veer landed in Asia, in Africa. In Antarctica, some dug into the soil like parasites, building forward. Bases. Others spread amidst something, biological, that began eating metal and plant alike. But wherever they went, Earth fought back. Not just soldiers, civilians too. Old miners used their drills, farmers buried IEDs near their crops. Hackers turned the power grid against the enemy, frying their ships from rooftops. And through it all, the Black Fleet didn't retreat home. They stayed out there. Because Earth didn't need rescuing. Earth was the one that taught how to fight, but the attack had only one real goal. Not to conquer, not even to kill. It was to send a message. Even death worlds can bleed in low Earth orbit. A Vare flagship opened its hangars. A weapon rose shaped like a black lotus, petals of plasma, core of unstable matter. The Var called it the Silent Seed. Its job, to erase memory, not just lives but data, culture, communication. A planetary mind dash wipe. It charged above Earth, but it never fired, because something was waiting. Not a ship, not a bomb. A man clad in exo-armor. No engines, just a suit and a trajectory. He was falling from the Iron Requiem's high orbit, launched like a bullet. Inside that armor, Commander Kane Araz, Earth's most lethal spaceborne operative, as the Silent Seed powered up, slammed into it mid-core. One strike, one detonation. His body was lost, but the seed was gone. Earth still remembered, and Earth would never forget him. By day 2, the Vare realized their mistake. They didn't find fear on Earth, they found rage. Coordinated counterattacks began on every continent. Special ops regiments emerged from hidden bunkers. Orbital cannons came online. Drones, the size of trucks, flooded the skies, and still, humans didn't broadcast anything to the stars. No pleas, no bravado, just war. By day 5, the last Vare ship tried to flee. It didn't make it past the upper stratosphere. Black Fleet interceptors tore it apart. By piece, as if punishing it for thinking it could escape. And when it was over, and the skies cleared, the stars returned, so did Earth's signal, and it sent only one phrase. Broadcast on every channel, in every council language. You brought war to our home. Now we bring hell to yours. The galaxy held its breath, because if the stories of Deathworlders had once been fear, now they were prophecy, and war had only just begun. The stars had seen war before. They had never seen a fleet move like this. Earth's Black Armada didn't deploy in waves, didn't spread out across systems like the Council fleets. It didn't send scouts or ask questions. It came in, one piece, all at once, like a thunderclap across the void. 6 dreadnoughts, 12 assault carriers, hundreds of escort destroyers and fighters, and at the very heart of it, the Iron Requiem, still bearing the scorch marks from the defense of Earth, leading the way toward Vare Prime. This wasn't a counterattack. It was a reckoning. The Vare Dominion had once been a shadow empire. No central world, no capital on the charts. No, they spread in silence, conquering from the edges, hiding their core like a cancer that didn't want surgery. But Earth found them. They didn't need spies. They just followed the graves, system by system. The Terrans mapped the trail of destruction left behind by the Vare's war beasts. Abandoned planets, devoured moons, mining colonies stripped bare and left silent. It was a path of ruin, and Earth walked it with fire in its step. One by one, the Vare forward. Bases were cleared, and not by nukes, not by orbital strikes, but by boots on the ground. Terran commandos, hardened by the defense of their own home, stormed Vare installations with brutal precision. They didn't scream, they didn't broadcast. They simply went in, and then there was nothing left standing. And with every fallen base, another piece of the puzzle snapped into place, until finally, they found it. Vare Prime. Not a city, not a palace. Massive asteroid belt twisted into living metal, orbiting a dying red star, half fortress, half machine. And inside, the Vare warlord waited. From deep within the Vare core, Zaire stared into the blackness of space behind him. His strongest generals prepared for war, but Zaire didn't shout. He simply placed a hand on the obsidian wall beside him and whispered, "They brought death to our doorstep. Let's invite them inside." He activated the command. The belt around. Vare Prime moved. The asteroids weren't just rock, they were weapons, ancient Vare constructs. Dormant for centuries came alive. Cannons the size of cities rose. Beams of hard light stretched between the stones, forming a shield grid that crackled with unnatural power. The defense ring was older than the Veer themselves, but it would be tested today, because the Terrans had already entered orbit. Admiral Riker Dane stood on the Iron Requiem's bridge in silence. The red star of Veer burned in front of him, twisted and bloated. The target was massive, and it was ready. "This is it," he said. The command crew waited. "Send the message." Single pulse beam shot from the flagship. Not a weapon, a signal. It said 3 things in the Veer's own language. "You came first. You struck our home, and we burn yours." The signal ended. 3 seconds passed, then Earth fired everything. The void lit up like a new sun. Railguns thundered. Missile waves curved through space like serpent storms. Pulse cannons shredded through Veer shields, but the asteroid grid fought back. Every cannon returned fire. Torpedoes streaked past the Terran fleet, hammering into shields. Black mist pods exploded, releasing nanobeasts that latched onto holes, chewing through steel. The Veer war beasts launched from hidden hangars, living constructs with claws of plasma and minds. Like corrupted code, they swarmed the human destroyers, slashing, tearing until Earth's fighters countered. Sleek, precise, relentless. Terran pilots didn't run. They rammed. They lured enemies into trap nets, into minefields, into tight corridors between their own ships, then detonated everything. 1. Veer command barge tried to retreat. It never made it halfway. Terran ships opened a rift right in its path, sucked it in, and collapsed the gate behind it. Gone. Without a trace. Inside the asteroid field. Terran drop pods launched. Thousands of them, and each carried Earth's deadliest export. Humans in armor. The Veer defenders on the ground. They didn't expect the speed. They barely had time to react before drop pods slammed into bunkers, opened like steel flowers, and unleashed squads of Terran soldiers. Not one-word commands, not textbook formations, just death, room by room, hall by hall, facility by facility. The message was clear. No one touches. Earthen survives. Admiral Riker watched the war unfold from the bridge, his voice calm. Send in the hammer. From orbit, a classified weapon dropped, a solid tungsten rod 10 stories. Tall, no warhead, no electronics, just pure mass. Falling from low orbit, it hit one of the Veer's core bunkers and cored the asteroid clean through. When the light faded, half the fortress was gone, and still the Terrans didn't stop. They dug deeper, the closer they got to the command center. The stranger the defenses became rooms warped by gravity, doors made of dark energy, walls that pulsed like veins. But Earth had sent its best. Not soldiers, hunters, men and women trained. Not just to fight, but to end wars. They didn't slow down. They accelerated in the deepest vault. Zaire finally prepared to fight. He stood in ancient armor, red eyes burning. Let them come. The last door opened, and humanity walked in. Darkness wasn't the absence of light inside the Veer. Koret was alive. It clung to walls that breathed. It pulsed with power older than the stars. And as Earth's finest warriors marched deeper into the fortress, the darkness watched. They weren't afraid. They'd seen worse. Some had stood on Earth's ruined moon. Some had fought under firestorms during the siege of Berlin Crater. And all of them had bled while defending Earth's soil. But this was different. They weren't here to defend. They were here to end something, and they knew. Deep in their bones, that once they reached the center, there would be no going back. The command team was led by Captain Maravos Silent, cold-eyed, scarred across one cheek. Her armor didn't gleam. It was pitted, scorched, and still bore the claw marks from the Veer's failed invasion of Earth. Her voice echoed through the squad's neural links. Cut the chatter. Helmets sealed. We breach in 60. Round her, 15 Terran elites checked. Weapons, plasma blades, rail rifles, anti-void charges. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. They'd trained together for 10 years. And for 10 years they had one job: enter impossible places, eliminate impossible threats, walk out. If possible, the final doors to the Vare throne room were made of black light, aloe solid to the eye, but impossible to scan. Terran engineers had studied this tech for years. They still didn't understand it, so the team didn't try. To hack it, they cut through it. Twin thermotile drills clamped to the surface, spinning until the alloy screamed. 1 minute, then 2. On the 3rd minute, the door collapsed inward, and the chamber opened like a wound. Inside stood Warlord Zir. He wasn't what they expected. Not a beast, not a monster, but something worse. Tall, calm, collected, a being who had seen galaxies burn, and had lit half of them himself. He wore an ancient Vare battle plate, layered like obsidian bones. No crown, no ceremony, just presence. When he looked at them, the air chilled. "So these are the Terrans," he said, his voice like a storm wrapped in silk. "The Death Worlders, the monsters in armor. You think you've brought war here? But this place was forged from war. Before Earth was even born, Captain Mara stepped forward, and it's time to unforge it. No speech, no offer of surrender, just fire." The room exploded into violence. Zaire moved like a shadow. Given weight, he crushed the first trooper with a flick of his clawed gauntlet. Armor and all, the second soldier went down trying to plant a gravity mine, but the rest did not flinch. Voss fired her rail rifle 3 bursts. Each one tore glowing cracks across Zaire's chestplate. Still, he came forward. Energy blades hissed from his arms, curved. Deadly Terran Heavy Mendoza activated a personal grav field, charging forward with twin hammers glowing white. They collided. 1 swing, then 2. Metal clanged like thunder. Zaire stabbed low, but Mendoza caught it, lifted the warlord bodily, and slammed him through the floor. The chamber collapsed into the level below. The squad followed. The lower level was ancient stone fused with machine, pulsing with a core reactor older than light. Here, Zaire finally bled. Thick black fluid leaked from his side as he rose, eyes burning brighter. "You are strong," he growled. "You remind me of us, before we became this." Captain Voss walked into view. "You should have stayed that way." She threw the red sun charge, a micro-singularity. Packed into a cube the size of a fist, it detonated. The floor tore apart. Gravity bent sideways. Screams of ancient machines echoed, and Zaire vanished in the blast. But not alone. He pulled 2 soldiers into the singularity with him, gone in seconds. Voss stood in the crater. Silent, the others approached. No cheering, no celebration, just the cold reality. He was dead. But something was still wrong. The reactor pulsed harder now, faster. They'd tripped a last failsafe. The core was going to detonate. Back on the Iron Requiem, Admiral Riker's eyes narrowed as new readings flooded the screen. "They rigged the core," he muttered. "They're going to take the whole system with them." The AI responded coldly. 6 minutes to detonation, and the squad, still inside. Riker turned to the comms officer. "Open a line."
Inside.
The ruins, Voss's helmet crackled. "This is Requiem. You've got 5 minutes to evac." Voss shook her head. Even though she knew they couldn't see, it's not enough time to climb. "You've got escape vectors. We'll guide you out." But Voss looked at the others. They all knew the truth. The route they'd taken had collapsed. Behind them, no backup. No shuttles. No tunnels. The only way out was straight up through layers of defense. No one had that much time. Still, they didn't stop. They ran. Because that's what Deathworlders did, even when the stars were falling in the last minute. 3 Terran soldiers made it to the outer surface. The Requiem pulled them in just as the Vare core began to rupture, and then it exploded. A star went black. The enemy's heart gone. The fleet turned, drifting silent, bruised, burning. But victorious, and behind them, only wreckage remained. wreckage, and a warning to anyone who might think of trying what the Veer did. The war ended in silence. No victory parades, no cheering in the void. Just stars blinking slowly in the distance, cold and eternal, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The Veer were gone, not scattered, not weakened, erased their empire. Once invisible and feared, was now ash and vacuum, a belt of broken ships and shattered fortresses orbiting a dead star where Veer Prime used to be. And Earth. Earth stood untouched, scorched perhaps, wounded. Yes, but still whole, still strong, still dangerous. Admiral Riker Dane looked out the viewing deck of the Iron Requiem as the fleet began its slow arc back toward home. Behind him, half the command. Crew was still suited, armor scorched from the fight. Missing Veer weapons had taken their toll, and yet Riker said nothing, because that was the Terran way. You mourn in silence, you rebuild in silence. But when someone tries to end you, you answer loudly, and the whole galaxy had heard that answer. On Earth, global broadcasts came back online. The news spread, planet to planet, system to system. The Veer are no more. Earth did not negotiate. Earth did not retreat. Earth came with a fleetan, stayed until the war ended. Some humans celebrated, bars lit up, streets filled in cities untouched by war. Songs were written, stories told. But those who fought, they stayed quiet in recovery rooms, command bunkers, and empty halls. They waited, because to them, this wasn't a victory, it was a message. Weeks later, in the council world of Hestron, diplomats gathered, over 60 species, united in caution. United in fear, not fear of Earth, fear of what Earth had revealed. One ambassador, thin-skinned Drelt with 4 hearts, addressed the chamber. We asked for help, he said. We lit the signal when the Veer struck us. We didn't know who would answer, but what came was not what we expected. Another voice replied, deep, calm human. General Lisa Novak, Terran representative, stood tall in a dark uniform with no medals, just a plain emblem of Earth on her chest. Sent a call for salvation. We sent warriors. You didn't understand us then. Now you do. One of the younger species, a fledgling race, just 50 years into spaceflight, asked the question everyone else was afraid to ask. Are you always like this? Novak turned, slow and steady, and said just 3 words, only when provoked. In orbit above Earth, repair drones swarmed around ships like bees to broken hives. Inside one of the medbays, Captain Mara Voss sat upright for the first time in days. A medic removed the bandages across her side, revealing the damage Zaire's blade had left. She barely looked at it. Instead, her gaze was fixed on a photo. 12 faces. Her full strike team. Now only 3 remained. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. She just placed the photo to a small metal box, then sealed it shut. Because Deathworlders don't cry in front of cameras. They cry alone. Years passed. The galaxy shifted. Treaties rewrote themselves around Earth's shadow. Some species reached out for alliances. Others pulled away in silence, but none forgot. Because across the stars, in ruined outposts and hollow moons, pieces of Veer wreckage still drifted, marked now with warnings. Earth was here. Some tried to study the remains. Others tried to salvage their tech. None succeeded, because the Terrans had left more than just destruction behind. They left a message, encrypted in every scrap of Veer code they'd torn apart. This is what happens. When you aim your weapons at a death world, there won't be a second warning. And Earth. Earth didn't expand. It didn't demand tribute. It didn't raise a flag across conquered systems. It simply returned to silence, watching, waiting, because Earth didn't want empires. It didn't want power. It just wanted the galaxy to remember one truth. Don't mistake peace for weakness. Don't ever knock on a death world's door unless you're ready for war.